I'm Jade, and I think the world needs more houseplants, like a lot more. In fact, I love houseplants so much, I turned my hobby into a career with my own plant shop. Whether you're plant obsessed or a total newbie, I'm here to help. If you've opened up Instagram lately, you've probably seen amazing interior jungles with plants climbing up a wall or around a room. Many trailing plants can also be trained to climb. This is because these plants have aerial roots, which in the wild attach to trees. But you can train them to do the same thing inside by using a small trellis or post covered in something that they can climb, like rough bark or moss. You can find wrap poles for sale at most houseplant stores, but it's easy to make your own. The easiest way to do this is to make a coconut core pole. All you need to make this is coconut core, a stake, and some twine. The first thing you want to do when starting your moss pole is to stretch the cocoa core that you already cut up. This way it makes it easier for when you're trying to roll it into that bamboo stick. After your cocoa core has been worked, then you want to lay it on a flat surface, grab your bamboo stick, and place it in the middle of that cocoa core. Start to tightly roll that worked cocoa core around the bamboo stake. As I'm rolling the coconut core into the bamboo stake, I also tied some twine at the end of the pole to help secure it. After you tie the twine to the end of the pole, you want to tuck the coconut core in and start wrapping the twine across the pole as tightly as you can. And at the end, when you're almost done wrapping the pole, make sure to double knot the end of the pole to secure the moss and the bamboo stick in place. Now, this moss pole is ready to go to stick into your favorite binding plant. You're ready to buy your first houseplant, but now what? My first houseplant was a large, lush, golden pothos. When I saw this plant, I knew I needed it in my home immediately, but I didn't know much about its care. But now that I'm thousands of plants in, literally, I'm here to share some tips I wish I knew as a newbie. Finding the perfect plant is kind of like dating. You're not looking for just the perfect plant, but the perfect plant for you. The one that meets all of your needs and that you'd automatically swipe right for. This could be different for everybody, so make sure that you research what your plant needs and consider your lifestyle to find the perfect fit for you. Know how much lighting you're working with. If you live in a basement level apartment, but your heart is set on a plant that thrives in a window, then your plant won't be happy, and neither will you. First, figure out what direction your room's light is coming from. To do this, use a compass app and see the orientation of the sun. Rooms with southern or western exposure tend to get the most bright indirect light, while northern or eastern exposure gets more filtered light. If your light reality doesn't match your plant goals, consider using a grow light to give your plant the UV rays it needs. Listen, I get it. Why buy one plant when you could buy 10? Why? Baby steps. You want to take the time to get to know your first few houseplants before purchasing more. Also, you'll figure out that some plants do better in your home than others, and you'll tend to get more of that variety. This is a Chinese evergreen. As you can see, one is happy and upright, and the other one is sad and may need a drink. There are some visual signs to let me know that this plant needs to be watered. One of the telltale signs is that this plant's leaves are droopy, the leaf is also curling, and the soil is pretty dry. Another way to tell when your plant needs water is to simply just pick up the pot. When a plant doesn't need water, it's going to feel heavier because there's going to be more moisture in the soil. A plant that does need water is going to be lighter because the soil is probably completely dry. So this plant has been thoroughly watered, and when you feel around in it, you will notice that the soil is really wet, and when you take your finger out, you will see that the soil is darker and sticks to your finger. On the other hand, this plant has not been watered in a while, and it is very hard to stick my finger into. Also, when I pull my finger out, there is less soil on my hand, and the soil that you do see is lighter. Also, when you water your plant, you want to make sure that it does have proper drainage. One way to know that your plant is thoroughly watered is to make sure that there's water coming out all around the base of the pot and not just in one spot. Once the plant gets the water it needs, make sure to dump out any excess water that is still sitting in the pot. Plants do not like the base of their pot wet, which is called wet feet, and that can also lead to root rot, which might eventually kill your plant. If your cat or dog likes to nibble on plants, you know that many common household plants can make your pet sick. Today we're going to be talking about houseplants considered safe for your furry friends. I have 2 Australian Shepherds who get into my plants if left unattended. I'm sure a lot of you can relate. Just a note before we get into the selections, we're using the ASPCA's toxic and non-toxic list as a guide for this video. First, let's talk about succulents. Most pets don't like these because they don't smell or taste good, but some succulents are mildly toxic to pets, so make sure to research the non-toxic varieties just to be extra careful. Echeveria is an easy to find non-toxic succulent. It comes in many shapes and sizes and does best in southern facing windows. Other succulents that are non-toxic to pets include hardy and tender sedum, haworthia, and sempervivium, including this plant called burro's tail, which is a great hanging option. Isn't it adorable? If you're looking for an eclectic addition to your plant collection that kids also love, check out the Venus flytrap. These carnivorous plants are non-toxic, so a nibble won't hurt your pet. These plants thrive in bright light and high humidity. Because of this, they make a great option for terrariums. These plants over time can slowly die with tap water, so instead use distilled to keep this plant happy. African violets thrive and bloom in bright indirect light and warm temperatures. They're one of the most popular houseplants. Another reason they're totally safe for your cats and dogs. This plant's fuzzy leaves do not like to get wet, so instead try bottom watering with filtered water for best results. There are more than 1,000 species of peperomia, all of which are safe for pets and kids. You've probably heard of the most Instagram-worthy peperomia called the watermelon peperomia. It is literally named that because the plant's leaves look like tiny baby watermelons. But you may not have heard of this pilea called the Pilea depressia. It's also nicknamed the baby tears and is a very cool trailing plant. This makes it a great option for hanging planters like this one. This plant has tiny scallop leaves and is commonly found in terrariums and dish gardens. This plant does best in bright, indirect light, and be sure to bottom water since the leaves grow close to the soil. Allow the soil to dry out halfway before watering once again. The ASPCA classifies the spider plant as pet-friendly for both cats and dogs. This plant is also super easy to care for, so it's no surprise it's been a common household plant for decades. They are amazing indoor air cleaners, and 15 spider plants can purify the air of an average-sized home. This is a plant that keeps on giving. Spider plants grow babies, called plantlets, along the bottom of the plant, giving it a spidery look. Pluck these babies off, and you have a whole new spider plant. A good rule of thumb is to repot your plants every 12 to 18 months. Plants tend to grow slower in the fall and the winter, so I recommend repotting in the spring and the summer for best results. Beyond a general timeline, there are also some visual cues that your plant needs a new home. You may see roots pushing out of the drainage hole, or you may also see roots pushing the plant out of its pot. The plant may also be top heavy. If the plant is 3 times the size of the pot, then it definitely is time for a new home. The plant might dry out more quickly than it used to in the past, or tend to grow slower year-round, not just in the winter months. You may also notice mineral and salt buildup in the soil. If any or all these apply, it's probably time to repot. What you'll need for repotting is, first, your plant, second, some indoor potting mix, and third, a new planter. You don't want to use anything marked garden soil for your indoor house plants. You'll want to size up 2 to 3 inches in diameter for tabletop planters or up to 4 inches for large floor planters. You'll want to size up gradually because too much excess soil can actually lead to root rot. Ideally, you'd want to choose a pot with drainage, or keep your plant in the nursery pot and place it into a more decorative pot. The first thing that you'll want to do is remove the plant from its pot. You want to start by picking up the pot, turning it to its side, and securing the leaves. Next, you'll want to gently massage the nursery pot to try to loosen the soil. After you've given it a good massage, you want to gently try to take the pot away from the soil. As you can see, this plant is giving you a visual cue that it needs a new home, as the roots are now tending to wrap at the base of the pot. This is a sign that the plant is root bound. This plant definitely needs more soil to spread out
out and grow. The next thing you want to do is mix up the soil that you'll use and put it in a shovel. You want to start by putting a thin layer of soil on the pot before you actually put the plant in. You'll want to add about 1 inch of soil in the pot to start out. Then you'll want to place the plant inside the pot, and you want to make sure that it's at a good height. The last thing you'll do is secure the plant in place so it stays in the middle while you fill soil in the pot. Gently press down on the soil after you've repotted it to mix the new soil in with the old soil. Finally, you want to add a little water. You don't want to soak it, but you want to make sure to give your plant just a little drink. Now your plant baby is happy in its new home and it's ready to grow.